Hello, everybody. Today is the 28th of August 2011, and this is Esoteric Astrology Adventure number 44. Unfortunately, the previous Esoteric Astrology Adventure was suddenly truncated due to a couple of reasons, but foremost was the fact that the internet simply went out. But I worked with Brett on this, and it has been made available to you on Makara, and also it will be available to you on Transfer Big Files. We had reached the point where we were discussing the cardinal signs and the progress around the cardinal signs. What appears in Aries as spiritual energy, because Aries is identified with essence, with pure being, with the idea, and idea is a being, a true idea is a being, incorporeal, i.e. without a body. What appears in Aries as spiritual energy enters into the soul stage in Cancer. This is the soul in incarnation, in which sign the soul incarnates for the first time in form. And as I discussed with you, there's also the possibility that the first individual incarnation is taken when the sun is in Pisces and not in Cancer, more a group incarnation in Cancer, reaches a point of equilibrium in Libra, equilibrium between the soul and personality. It says, in which sign soul and personality achieve a balance of cooperation, and in Capricorn, the will nature arrives at fulfillment, and the vision goal is reached. We're looking for the spiritual goal. Many Capricornians achieve a personal goal in Capricorn. I'm just reviewing what we were reading when the program was suddenly truncated at about 23 or 24 minutes. In Capricorn, the man reaches either the height of personal ambition or he becomes the initiate, attaining his spiritual objective. It all depends on the manner in which he is proceeding around the wheel. Is he proceeding around the wheel of form as an ordinary person, or is he working on the wheel of consciousness as the disciple becoming initiate? The difference between these two goals depends upon the mode of progression around the wheel of life. It should be remembered, generalizing again and speaking symbolically, that the crosses also turn, and thus the spokes, being the spokes of the great wheel. And this we have discussed. Actually, the program ended, I think, just a little bit later, right in this place, right about here. Well, I'll put it there. The undeveloped man goes from Aries to Capricorn and to Libra and Cancer. He is retrogressing or going clockwise around the wheel, while the developed man reverses the process. We could, for the sake of clarity, consider the great experience of life as taking place upon the three wheels within the wheel of life, viewing it from three angles. Okay. The Wheel of Incarnation, the cycle of ordinary evolution, the period of captivity wherein the man is bound to the wheel, the fourfold common cross, life in the three worlds. Okay. So we have a situation in which the undeveloped man goes from Aries to Capricorn and to Libra and to Cancer. Okay, this is the retrogressive method. As I discussed before, ambition is reached, but finally there is a realization of relationship in Libra, and the love energy begins to enter, and in Cancer, increased sensitivity counteracts the hardness that is found in the early Capricorn individual. We could, for the sake of clarity, consider the great experience of life is taking place upon these three wheels within the wheel of life. So we're going to look at three wheels within the wheel of life. The wheel of incarnation, the wheel adjusted or reversed, and the wheel controlled or dominated. So I began to read these before. The wheel of incarnation, this is the cycle of ordinary evolution. It lasts for millions upon millions of years and is by far the lengthiest thus far of the three wheels. You know, perhaps later, when better methods of education are forthcoming, experience upon this particular wheel will be speeded up because there has been no particular assistance coming from mankind in the treading of or the turning of this wheel. Cycle of ordinary evolution. It's a period of captivity. It reminds one of Pisces in that respect. The soul, incarnating soul, is captive to the elemental life. The period of captivity wherein the man is bound upon the wheel. This is the fourfold influence of the common cross, the cross of many changes, and it is a cross which involves the human being in experiences within the three lower worlds, the etheric, physical, astral, and lower mental planes. And this begins, of course, with the etheric, physical experience. It's life in the three worlds. It's the gradual development of the personality. So this is called the wheel of incarnation, one of the wheels within the great wheel of life. The next wheel is called the wheel adjusted or reversed. Interesting that the word adjusted is used. We talk about the reception of energy in the higher centers and their expression through the higher centers. This is the real spiritual, physiological meaning of the reversal of the wheel. And the adjustment is made by the personality towards the soul. The soul is brought into increasing expression through the elemental life. This is the cycle of true discipleship. You know, when one is just in the beginning of the process of reversing the wheel, it's a very rending process, which is the stage of aspiration, and the man is truly torn. By the time one is a true disciple, one has fixed the consciousness willfully in the mind, and much greater stability eventuates. This is the period of emergence, wherein the man alters the revolution of the wheel. What is emerging, the soul in incarnation, is emerging from its captivity to the elemental life. Some of this emergence and the struggle involved can be discussed in relation to St. Paul when he described his sort of wretched scorpionic condition. That which I would do, I do not. That which I would not do, I do. O wretched man that I am, who can save me from the body of this death? The body of this death is the tendencies of the personality life, the elemental life, which seems to compel the consciousness in a direction other than the soul would impel. So anyway, the period of emergence, the man alters the revolution of the wheel. It's the fourfold influence of the fixed cross, which is, in a way, the cross of shortest duration, lasting from the, generically from the first initiation until the third, and then fading out after the third as the cardinal cross fades in, gaining full preeminence by the fifth initiation, the cardinal cross does. It's life in the five worlds of superhuman evolution. That means the man begins to be responsive, at least, Buddhically and atomically, although not as responsive as he will be when he has taken the third and even the fourth initiation. It's the unfoldment of the soul, which still exists on the higher mental plane, through the personality. By the time the soul body is destroyed at the fourth initiation, man is no longer on the fixed cross. And now we have the wheel of life, or the wheel of incarnating life, controlled or dominated. And this is the cycle of true initiation, and we have to say that this cycle begins from the third initiation onward. That which is called initiation on the fixed cross, the early stages of the fixed cross, the first and second initiation, is not really initiation at all. It's initiation of the thresholds. So the wheel is by no means controlled or dominated during those threshold phases, but is in process of being controlled or dominated. So it's we'll say the cycle of initiation, we'll say from the third initiation onwards. Truly, however, the third initiation is still taken upon the fixed cross, and so technically we're not yet in the realm of the cardinal cross, but we are beginning to respond to those streams of energy which will lead us onto the cardinal cross, that is, the energy of spirit particularly. This is the period of liberation from the work of the great wheel. Now, you know, in a way, we could call this the monadic wheel, because the monad takes a great pilgrimage into the five lower worlds, sending forth an aspect of itself while still remaining upon the monadic plane. That's one of the great mysteries, that even now we are the monad on the higher plane while being immersed through emanation in the lower worlds. So we finally are liberated not only from the three worlds of normal evolution, but we are liberated from the five worlds of human and superhuman evolution. The truly liberated monad does not need the permanent atoms of the spiritual triad any longer, unless it decides that they are somehow necessary, as the Buddha himself took steps to preserve his triadal vehicles and their capacities to generate the lower permanent atoms, all for the sake of the coming Christ who would use them. Okay, it's the period of liberation from the work of the great wheel. Now, you know, there's one liberation at the fourth initiation, and incarnation is no longer necessary. But a greater liberation occurs at the sixth initiation, which is definitely upon the cardinal cross, whereas the fourth initiation is not yet upon the cardinal cross. And that greater liberation prepares a man for treading one of the 7 or 9 paths, which most of them lead out of the solar system. All of them do naturally. Okay, this is the fourfold influence of the cardinal cross, considered in relation to being, just as the fixed cross is considered in relation to soul, and the common cross, a mutable cross, is considered in relation to personality. It's life in the 7 worlds of our 7 planes, and the Christ is, and the Buddha as well, are still located on the etheric levels, the highest etheric levels of the cosmic physical plane, on the logoic plane, although capable of functioning on all planes lower as well. So this is a stage of high liberation. Even the 6th degree initiate perhaps cannot function as fully on the logoic plane as can the 7th. He may be responsive to the logoic plane, but the 7th degree initiate can, as it were, establish himself at the right hand of God, or focus on that particular plane where Sanat Kumara has his major focus, the focus of his council chamber, on the 7th, the highest, i.e. the logoic plane, and probably the highest levels of that plane, at least for Sanat Kumara, maybe not for the 7th degree initiate. There's the fusion of spirit, soul, and body. We could call this monad, ego and personality and body are equivalent terms, and the true spirit, which we can call, I think, the volatile essence in alchemical terms, I think has its liberated place upon the seventh plane, the logoic plane, or the first plane, depending on how you are numbering. Okay, so we've just seen 3 wheels. These wheels in review again are the Wheel of Incarnation. We're all on that, but some of us are not only on the Wheel of Incarnation, but we're on the reversed wheel as well, struggling forward on the path of discipleship and towards what can be called the wheel-controlled or dominated, which occurs at the 3rd initiation and beyond. At least it begins at the 3rd initiation, and it really takes place, that domination, beyond the 3rd degree, the cardinal cross being fully implemented at the 5th degree, I would say. Yes, maybe I can find that quotation for you. Let's see. Takes me just a moment here. Hopefully, we'll all continue the work. And here is the quotation that I'm looking for, and we'll confirm in your mind the idea that on the on the cardinal cross, at the 4th initiation, neither the fixed nor cardinal cross is operative. Let us take a look. The cardinal cross governs the master, see the initiative of the 5th degree and beyond, as he passes through the remaining 5 initiations, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The 4th initiation is, curiously enough, governed by neither the fixed cross nor the cardinal cross. The disciple is descending from the fixed cross and seeking to mount the cardinal cross, and it is this transition period and experience which practically govern him. It might be noted that there are 3 initiations which test the disciple as to knowledge and experience. 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Then comes an initiation of transition, which is the 4th, followed by 5 initiations, which the master undergoes on the cardinal cross. That's from the Rays and Initiations, page 694. So I think that's most interesting, and it is confirmatory. We are descending from the fixed cross at the 4th initiation and attempting to mount the cardinal cross at the 4th initiation. Did I say 6th? I meant 4th. 4th initiation. Okay. Now, let us go on with Aries. Aries, therefore, starts the process of the most ancient initiation which all the human family has undergone and will undergo. Well, okay, what shall this be? Let us see. Shall it be the initiation into the human kingdom, or shall it be the descent of the monad into the higher mental plane from which individualization can be engineered and from which entry into the human kingdom can be engineered? Actually, the formation of the causal body does take a long time. Even the gathering of its prototypical form, it takes a long time. And so is in process even before the human kingdom is entered, or shall we say, created. The first great cosmic initiation, as far as humanity is concerned, is initiation into incarnation, the initiation of individualization. This is, in a way, both a mass initiation, as many human beings appear simultaneously made out of animal man, so to speak, by the introduction of the spark of mind from the solar angels, that part of the solar angels which indwells the human being, touching his brain and his mental unit. So that's the first great cosmic initiation, and Aries starts this process of descent. So when it comes time in the planetary process, which has been connected that time with the opening of the planetary heart, then it is Aries working from the very highest aspect of the monad, which initiates this process. This process culminates aeons later. How long is an aeon? Well, I think it's a generic term, a general term. This process culminates aeons later in the reversing of the wheel. So it's millions of years later that it really occurs, and there are many, the great majority of human beings today who have not yet begun to reverse the wheel. They are not yet working in the fifth petal of the egoic lotus. They are not yet pursuing that sense of something other, a higher, in a pair of dualities. They are not yet aware of any internal higher power, or whatever they want to call it. So this process of the great ancient initiation, in which the monad descends and establishes itself upon the plane of soul, and then sends forth an emanation as a human being, because really the human being is the monad. The human being is the soul in incarnation, but the soul in incarnation essentially is the awareness of the monad. When I as a personality am the monad, I as a soul in incarnation am the monad, I as a soul on its own plane am the monad, I in the triad, whatever consciousness that may be, am the monad, I upon the monadic plane am the monad. The monad is the man, though the full power of the monad is not realized except by high initiates. It can be realized on the monadic plane, but it cannot be realized in the lower vehicles except by the highly accomplished initiate. So eons later, this process culminates eons later in the reversing of the wheel and the attaining of a definite goal in Capricorn. Note the word definite, finite, Saturn, bounded, concrete. Definite, relating, rotating, relating to Capricorn. It culminates in the achievement of transference from off the fixed cross onto the cardinal cross, which is in its turn the logical sequence of the transference from off the mutable or common cross onto the fixed cross. So we who are studying these books, studying the treatise on the seven rays, we should be crucified, is it the word? Upon the fixed cross. That should be our cross. We begin to aspire towards something higher in the later phases of the mutable cross, but if we are a true disciple, we are crucified, fixed upon the fixed cross, the cross of blinding light in Taurus, fiery pain in Leo, bitter woe in Scorpio, and yet the cross of liberation, Aquarius, liberation through Uranus and other planets and factors. We really do live in a sea of energies, and in this type of work we are attempting to discover what these energies really are, to become sensitive to them and learn how to express them in a manner which is not personally based, but which is based upon the divine plan, and eventually upon that greater pattern which is held secret in the consciousness of the planetary logos, the divine purpose, and he is reflecting a still greater purpose, and so forth. So anyway, this culmination of the transference onto the cardinal cross really occurred at mastership. After we pass through that harrowing transition at the fourth initiation, where the man finds himself bereft of all that seemed to sustain him in the past, namely the presence of his own solar angel, which has returned, as it were, to the heart of the sun, of the central spiritual sun, and as well he's leaving the lower worlds which no longer hold attraction or interest for him and cannot sustain his consciousness. They have been an arena of captivity for him. So he's really on his own at this point, at the fourth degree, and the first ray is coming in via Vulcan, as is the fourth ray. And he has to rely upon himself in a manner which has never been the case before. We remember that the Buddha was teaching arhats. He was surrounded by arhats. The Buddha, the true Buddha, I think, was an initiate of the sixth degree. And so, naturally enough, his students would be initiates of the fourth degree. Maybe some masters there too, but we're not given to know that. And his great message was self-reliance, where we have certainly relied upon the guardian angel, which is as much of the solar angel as can be projected into the three worlds and in a particular incarnation. And that type of reliance ends in a way we have to become our own solar angel. Minimally, of course, because it takes a whole education in the system of Sirius to become a true solar angel. At least that's where our solar angels are educated. But we have to step up to the plate, as it were, and relying upon our own monadic self, take control through the divine will, as much of that will as can come through our consciousness. Okay, so therefore, in its lowest manifestation, Aries is the creator of those activities, conditions, and processes which lead to the manifestation of soul through the medium of form. So the beginning of manifestation, let's call it beginning of manifestation of soul through form, is instigated in Aries. So it is the creator. Aries is always connected with the third aspect of divinity, as well as with the first and second, as I've discussed. God the Father first, and the Lamb slain from the foundations of the world, the sacrificial Son, that's the second aspect, and the Creator. DK has said that monadically there are three types: the director, Ray 1, the teacher, Ray 2, and the manipulator, Ray 3, but the manipulator is really the creator. That's another way to think about it. Therefore, in its lowest manifestation, Aries is the creator of those activities, conditions, and processes which lead to the manifestation of soul through the medium of form. Later, much later, I suspect, of those higher creative undertakings which lead in due time to the manifestation of spirit through soul. So, okay, eventually, we are introduced into the laws of being. And DK tells us he is an initiate into the realm of being, and that should tell us something. I think it probably tells us that he's a master, although his status as a teacher was held secret for a long time, because we know how people are. They begin to become devoted to a particular rank rather than to use their mind to study what the teacher really says. Okay, so there are creative undertakings which lead in due time to the manifestation of spirit through soul, and that begins at the third initiation. It's very forcefully present at the fourth and becomes dominant at the fifth, and in a way absolute at the sixth initiation. These processes eventually demonstrate the true nature of the triplicity to which I introduced you in the earlier pages of this treatise, namely in Esoteric Psychology 1, as this five-fold treatise is really one thing: life, quality, and appearance, and in terms of man, that is the monad, life, the soul, quality, and appearance, personality, appearance. Aries is also the purveyor to our solar system, and here it tells us not just the purveyor to our planet, but the purveyor to our solar system of fire, electric, the first aspect, the first type of fire, fire of the spirit, and of the dynamic nature of God, which is that, dynamism is that which moves with power. Dynamos, that which moves with power. The dynamic nature of God, which has in it the qualities of fostering and nourishing heat, and also the fire which burns and destroys. So Aries brings in fire. But there is something of a second-ray nature here. It fosters and it nourishes and it sustains. So the triple aspect of fire, I think, can be related to fire, to Aries. We certainly realize there are many fire by friction types of Aries people, and they are causing friction and irritation indeed in many respects in the lower three worlds. There are also those who are sustaining with the warmth of the soul. We've seen a number of them, and I could, well, you know, I sometimes think about a soul-centered psychologist like Abraham Maslow, who was an Aries. I think about the wisdom of Dane Rudyard, another Aries. All of these are on the second ray, of course. The qualities of fostering and nourishing heat, and also the fire which burns and destroys. From the standpoint of esoteric astrology, there are three major signs in which three deaths are undergone. All deaths are liberations from some type of form captivity. At least those are the positive deaths. Some deaths are deaths which obscure the consciousness in form, but we are talking about the liberating deaths. So let us see. The purveyor to our solar system, I guess this is called pondering, isn't it? You know, you go over and over these words until they begin to, you know, really speak to you and the associations appear. And obviously the more we ponder, the deeper it could go. So the associations which I can come up with here, you know, could be deeper than they are, but given time, we will all reach the necessary depth. Aries is also the purveyor to our solar system of fire, fire in general, electric fire, and of the dynamic nature of God. It is a moving power. It's relating, the dynamic nature of God is related to a specific type of motion, which we will call progress onwards, or driving forward through space. And Aries certainly is a sign of incredible forward, one-pointed drive. The dynamic nature of God, which has in it the qualities of fostering and nourishing heat, the heat that sustains form, and also the heat that destroys form. So there are fires, let's call it fires of sustainment and fires of destruction. Let's learn how to spell. And Aries is associated with both. And here are the three deaths. Excuse me, Aries, which at different points along the path of life forces the soul onto the burning ground and subjects it to a purifying process during incarnation. In other words, burning away the trammeling impurities, the binding, the captivating impurities, and thus liberating the soul, liberating the consciousness, really is what we're saying. And notice the word force. Now, this is not a gentle invitation. Aries has a lot of first-rate energy, so we are being forced into the fire to burn away our impurities. And there are different burning grounds because consciousness goes through different types of liberations. Some of them behind us, if we are disciples, some of them ahead of us. Through the lesser fire of mind, Now we presume here that this will be the fire of the concrete mind, but perhaps some of the abstract mind and son of mind will be involved here, because there is the fire of love and the fire of will. So the question is mind itself a lesser fire, or are we looking at as if a number of fires are operative within the mind itself? I always love this phrase. I even wrote a song about it. The jungles of experience are set on fire and dissolve in flames, and then the path stands clear and unobstructed vision is achieved. Sometimes I call it the jungles of illusion. The jungles of experience are set on fire and dissolve in flames, so we are no longer in that maze, that thicket, that illusory concatenation of forces which bewilder us and bind us and prevent us from emerging. So all of those thick, low-lying interaction of energies, which we call jungle, they dissolve. And then the path towards true spirituality, true freedom of the soul, and eventual freedom of the spirit stands clear, and unobstructed vision is achieved. In that way, we are seeing the way Aries can segue into Taurus, which is a major sign of vision, and has a connection as well with another fire sign, Sagittarius, which says, I see the goal, I reach that goal, and then I see another. So I love that. And the jungles of experience are set on fire and dissolve in flames. And then the path stands clear and unobstructed vision is achieved. And you can question yourself about the burning grounds that you've been on, and to what extent you have been liberated by passing through the fire. Obviously, there's some degree of loss of things to which we were attached. Do you feel less for the loss, or do you feel as if there is more power and consciousness in your life, and as if your life has greater value and greater meaning after this burning ground experience? I think it would be good, in connection to Aries, to list the burning grounds on which we have been placed, or onto which we have been forced to list the burning grounds and see the type of liberation which may have occurred as a result. Okay, through the fiery processes. Okay, I'm just checking to make sure that we're good here. Okay. Through the fiery processes of war and strife, we're enter into battle for the Lord. Through the fiery processes of war and strife, because friction does produce the spark of fire, brought to the individual through the influence of the planetary ruler Mars. So Mars brings war and strife with the purpose of creating additional sensitivity, really. It's the crudest form of relationship to enter into battle, but it's the precursor of a deeper and more sensitive type of exchange. At least when we collide with something, we know it's there and we can begin to relate to it. The individual, through the influence of the planetary ruler Mars, the god of war, a needed purification takes place. This reminds one of the third petal of the egoic lotus, which is a petal of sacrifice, in which the individual, or by means of which the individual is forced into processes where the sacrifice required is often involuntary and unconscious. War and earning a living under adverse circumstances, and simply having to subject oneself to the pressures of life in which the personality is sacrificed. These are all characteristic of that third petal. And later at the sixth and ninth petal, the sacrifice becomes progressively voluntary until it's completely voluntary at the ninth petal of the egoic lotus. Through the fiery processes of war and strife brought to the individual through the influence of the planetary ruler Mars, the god of war, a needed purification takes place. I mean, we do begin in a rather animalistic state. We're quite close to the third or animal kingdom, and we have to gradually work our way out of that through the processes of detachment, many of which are very painful to the personality. The same purification, but this time through vision. That's what we've just been reading about. The same purification, but this time through vision, comes to the developed man. The activity of the subjective ruler of the planet, I would think subjective ruler of the sign, but the activity of the subjective ruler of the planet Mercury, who is the illuminating principle which releases the mind, directs the way of man through life, the directing power of Mercury through increasing vision, and enables him to become aware of the divine plan which underlies all his fiery experience. So the jungles of experience are set on fire and dissolving flames, and then the path stands clear, and unobstructed vision is achieved. This is a mercurial statement, and some beautiful things are said here. Purification through vision and not just through strife. In other words, we struggle to see, and according to the truth, if we can see in truth, we are purified by the truth we see, especially as we begin to incorporate it and apply it in our lives. The illuminating principle, our mind released from preoccupation with the jungles of experience, and thus our consciousness increasingly released from form, and then behind all of this confusing and combative experience, there is indeed a divine plan, and under Aries, as we said before, there is recognition and work with the plan. Esoteric Astrology, if we go to page 332, we will see that recognition and work with the plan, responsiveness to the will. This is the disciple and initiate working with Aries. And even the advanced man sees more clearly than simply fighting his way under Mars through bewildering experience. Okay, now go on. So that's one type of death, death upon the burning ground, death of the form, but also the death of form as a captivator of consciousness. So the enemy, in this case, is the form, at least for a while, and then the consciousness and the mind are liberated from its effects through that type of burning ground death, especially the death of vision. Now, he didn't really include Uranus here, which is another one of the great rulers of Aries, and Uranus rules the final burning ground. Now, what will that be? Final in what sense? Is the burning ground before the fourth initiation final, or before the sixth, or later still? Planets are great gods, and they are involved in these later types of liberations, especially one of the most powerful planets in our solar system, Uranus, that is the monadic purveyor of the first ray. Then another death here. There's a Scorpio, which brings about, eventually, the death of the personality. That's sometimes spoken of as occurring at the second initiation, but I think it's particularly the death of the astral nature of the personality. The personality is not quite dead yet, and even at the third, it's not. I really think that the number 4, the fourth initiation, in which Scorpio does not play its usual part, but I think must play some part, brings about that death of the fourfold personality elemental. But oftentimes at the second initiation, we speak of the death of the personality. Certainly, the personality is desire-based, and the solar plexus is a very strong center through which the personality works, since the personality works in the sub-diaphragmatic levels. So anyway, of the depth of personality, and with which we shall later deal when we come to consider that sign. Esoterically as well as exoterically, Scorpio is the sign of death and burial in the earth. It's kind of a suffocation in a way. So this is a kind of death in which we are immersed in the illusions of the three lower worlds where the Hydra, Scorpionic Hydra, rules, of descent into the depths in order to be lifted again onto the heights, the mountaintop of Capricorn. So whether that descent involves, what do we call it, spelunking, when you go and investigate caves in kind of a Plutonian manner, or whether you investigate the depths of the body through medical research, or whether you enter into the psyche through depth psychology, or whether you're looking for the deepest roots of thought, there's always this experience of getting beneath the surface in Scorpio, trying to find the true causes of the maze on each level. The maze, in a way, is ruled by Taurus, and Scorpio is the opposite sign and is very helpful in finding the way out of the maze. So, death and burial in the earth, of descent into the depths in order to be lifted again onto the heights. Scorpio was the sign in which Hercules lifted the Hydra above his head up into the Buddhic levels of intuition, and in that pure air of the intuition, the triple illusion with the Hydra, of which the Hydra is the symbol, could not survive. It could not breathe in that more refined air. It is stated in some of the most ancient books, and one wonders just how ancient, probably just thousands and thousands of years old, that the heat of the earth, one thinks of the latent fires of matter, the mother aspect, not even the etheric aspect, but the dense aspect, and the sting of the scorpion that wakes us up to the illusion in which we are in, are the beneficent gifts which the turning of the wheel gives to the man at the beginning and at the end. So, in a way, we are immersed in the heat and the depth of the mother substance. And if we can think of the sting of the scorpion, our consciousness dies at that point, and we are completely deluded. We are in the world of illusion. But eventually, the sting of the scorpion, the loss we experience, the pain we experience, wake us up to the illusion we are in, and we rise via Mercury, the highest ruler of Scorpio, out of that triple illusion, and we conquer the Hydra, not with the sword, but with the power of the mind, which is very strong in Scorpio, whether to analyze the emotional condition or to become illumined by the soul. These gifts, when accepted and used, bring a man to liberation and eventually from the control and pain of the fixed cross. The fixed cross is indeed the cross of pain. Think about the relation of Scorpio to Aquarius via the planet Uranus. Scorpio is the planet, Uranus is the planet which is exalted in Scorpio, and Uranus is the most characteristic ruler in ordinary astrology of Aquarius. It is a kind of liberation. Whenever you see that word liberation, the idea of Uranus should be brought to mind. So we had this intense fire by friction, latent fire, which preoccupies us for so many years, and from it we must gather power. Scorpio is a Kundalinic sign. We gather power. We gather the Kundalini energy deeply from the mother. It is mother power, in a sense, rising towards father power. And it helps to liberate us from the clutches of lower matter, and the sting of the scorpion, as I say, wakes us up. There's a kind of a death by suffocation operating here. There's another death. So far we have Aries, which is connected with Pluto. Aries, Pluto, Shambhala. We have Scorpio, which is connected with Pluto. This is the planet of death. Scorpio is the sort of sub-ruler of Scorpio in two phases, both for the average man, but particularly for the disciple. And now Pisces, in which Pluto is the esoteric and hierarchical ruler. Pisces sees the relinquishing or the death of all the influences which hold the man to the wheel of birth, and his release from the control of the common and mutable cross. This is interesting because I think some of the very final incarnations on the mutable cross are actually ruled by Pisces. Pisces seems to affect a transition from off the mutable cross onto the fixed cross, and I do believe that there is a way in which Pisces, associated with the fourth initiation, affects a transition from the fixed cross onto the cardinal cross. He's not talking about that here. All the influences are relinquished. This is about renunciation. Pisces is the great sign of renunciation, and renunciation is a kind of death. Renunciation as death. We choose to die to the magnetisms of the lower worlds. That is a willful renunciation, and it is death to our previous scene of captivity, but it is entrance into a new and wider life. So in a way, Pisces, and sometimes Scorpio, death unto life. So we die in order to be reborn. This is very Scorpionic in the St. Paul sense, the idea that in order to find our life, we must lose our life. He who would find his life must lose it, must relinquish it. Okay. So it is interesting to note that each of these three signs of death is to be found on a different cross. Aries, the cardinal cross, and I can see where it could be certainly related to the seventh initiation, to the fifth, to some of these great beginning points. Scorpio is the characteristic sign of the fixed cross, and Hercules is that hero which most characterizes the human struggle upon the fixed cross, and Pisces is involved with the mutable cross and the transition from the mutable cross onto the fixed cross. But as I said, there's every reason to believe that Pisces is strongly involved with the transition from the fixed cross to the cardinal cross. And, you know, if you're going to give up your entire relationship with the three lower worlds at the fourth initiation, Pisces would be a perfect sign in which to do it. I once had a friend that came to me, and she thought she had taken the third initiation and wanted to take the fourth initiation in her next life. About that, I couldn't say whether she was correct or not correct, but she was a highly developed person, and she had Pisces rising. She was a Capricorn, and she wanted me to devise a horoscope for her next life so she could take the fourth initiation for sure. And I worked on it. You know, I don't know if I really thought I could do anything with it, but she was a powerful psychic person, you know, and you know, she was a person who could she could psychically reference any of the books to the exact page. She just sort of had them all in her mind, and they would psychically appear, the relevant references, and she had many other abilities. But I chose a chart that was replete with Piscean energy and filled with sort of scorpionic, plutonic potentials. And I said, if you really want the fourth initiation, here's a good one. I showed it to another friend of mine who was in astrology. He said, oh, no, you should never do that. She says, it's just too tough. But on the other hand, this was the request, and I did offer it. Now, you know, whether whether or not it was anything but simply an academic exercise, who can tell? But it was interesting to think about what it takes to take this fourth initiation, which is considered to be taken in a life which is extremely difficult, in which all conventional attachments will be forsaken, or the man, the woman, the person will stand bereft of all that had attracted him or her to the three lower worlds. So it is the influence of these three, we are told, here we are on page 97, influence of these three, which brings about the three needed and determined deaths in the life of the human being. So deaths upon each one of the crosses, and eventually all of them being ultimately liberating deaths. I'm here referring to the signs independently of their planetary rulers. The influence of these three. We're not talking about Mars, we're not talking about Pluto, we're not talking about any of the rulers of these signs, but of the signs themselves. There is something in the energy which pours in through these three signs, which predetermines a crystallizing process. This always precedes death, crystallization, and the eventual destruction of some type of form control. When form crystallizes and can no longer breathe and expand, it is shattered. Vulcan is usually the method of shattering, but Pluto can be involved in that, and there is also Uranian shattering and Neptunian dissolution. And the old commentary expresses these ideas in the following words. Well, I think, if I'm correct, I don't think we should get into that immediately. No, instead we will say that Esoteric Astrology Adventure, number 44, this time pretty complete without premature truncation through the disappearance of the internet, operated from page 94 until page 97. I believe that's correct. Yeah, end of EAA 44, end. And we will together say the great invocation as we always do, and then continue with our work. Let's see. From the point of light within. Yeah, we got it. Oh, that's not it. Just have to do it that way. From the point of light within. There we go. All right. So we'll start with an Om. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Okay, friends, that's it for the moment. We have arrived at the point of conclusion for this Esoteric Astrology Adventure, and we will begin again with number 45, still dealing with Aries. Each one of these signs will take a fair number of programs, and we will bring to light as much of the essence as we can and as many connections as may seem valuable. Okay, we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.